Alright, welcome back to the Beanbag. Today I am looking at the line of Star Trek Voyager Playmates action figures, and just a couple of customs that I've done with those. I've got a few more that I'll show in another video that are not main characters. This is just the main character line. So we will get started with Captain Janeway. Now, first thing I gotta say that one of the things that everybody loved about the Voyager line was that they did finally add, this was the first time that they added this particular point of articulation. See, on the previous figures, whenever you had them sit, they all had to sit in this awkward position with their knees sort of splayed and their ankles right next to each other. It didn't look horrible, but it was a little bit odd looking. So with them, you could actually position their legs like this, so that their feet were actually down like they were on the ground, a little closer to appropriate sitting. Now, of course, one of the great things is that I remember hearing Kate Mulgrew joke about the fact that the one thing that they could never stop changing about her throughout the entire run of the show was her hair. This is the sculpt of what her hair looked like in about the first 2 episodes. She did return to a bun a handful of times later on in other seasons, but yeah, that was this was a very short-lived look for her hair. Her and Torres were the ones who their figures changed the most. Although with Torres, I think about the 4th season, they did finally settle on a look for her hair, and it didn't really change after that. Next, we've got Chakotay, which, if you saw my video on Deep Space Nine, you'll recognize the body, because they took and reused this exact body with a Captain Cisco head for the Season 4 look for Captain Cisco, Season 4, Season 5 look of Captain Cisco, where he's been promoted and has the shaved head and the goatee. This was one of those things. Honestly, like, the tattoo looks fantastic, but it's one of those things I've talked about, the not quite realistic, not quite cartoonish look of all of these figures. And I don't recall Robert Beltran's jaw ever being quite so jolly. But especially when you look at it straight on, just look at it. But other than that, it's a decent sculpt. There was the EMH, which of course his character, the look never really changed. He had other costumes he wore from time to time, and as a customizer I will probably get around to doing a few of those looks. Of course, we saw the actor technically as Dr. Zimmerman wearing this uniform in gold. We also saw him wearing this uniform in red when he became the emergency command hologram, which a lot of customizers do those because it's just a real simple repaint of the shoulders there. But yeah, as far as the Doctor's overall look, it didn't change much. He had a few other costumes he wore from time to time, and that was about it. Then there was Lieutenant Torres. Like I said, her hair did change a couple of times in the first few seasons, but later, by about season 4 or so, they settled on a look that just really, that stuck. Of course, that was about the same time that I think that that the actress was pregnant, and they had her, for that brief time period, wearing the engineering jacket, which is one that I might have to eventually get around to making. It was a fun look for a little while. It's one of those that I wish they'd kind of brought back every once in a while. It reminded me of in the movies when Scotty would wear the vest. And I've always thought, well, why didn't they occasionally bring that back? I thought it was a pretty decent look. But yeah, good sculpt on that one. No real complaints. Tom Paris, again, a character who didn't really change much throughout the show as far as his looks. So this one, again, can be any season. They do, of course, as I pointed out, the pips on the collar that are painted on. It's the Lieutenant Junior grade, because he does get demoted to Ensign, then eventually back to Lieutenant, and all that jazz. But yeah, and this is one of those head sculpts that us customizers really like, because it's another one that's fairly good and generic. Next we've got Ensign Harry Kim. Okay, so next is Harry Kim. Yeah, I know he's a little dirty. I need to get him cleaned up a little bit. This is one of the funny things. I keep saying this about a lot of the Voyager figures, characters, is that throughout most of the show, most of them didn't change their looks at all, compared to Deep Space Nine, where people were changing uniforms and hairstyles and everything at least once a year. I'm not sure what that really says about the shows in comparison. But anyways, yeah, Harry, again, really great figure sculpt. I've always thought that the eyes weren't quite right, but it's a decent figure overall. And of course, those extra points of articulation have always been something that I appreciated. Next is Tuvok, which is a really good sculpt, actually. The likeness from Tim Russ is excellent. The ears, the eyebrows, everything is really, really great. Cannot complain one bit about these. And then for the regular crew, the last one I've got is Nelix. I will quickly go ahead and say I do not have Kes. It's the only one of the Voyager figures that I have never been able to get a hold of for some reason. So hopefully I'll be able to get that soon enough. Now, of course, one of the great things about the Nelix figure is, in here, let me grab a Tuvok, is that he was significantly shorter than the other figures, which, of course, the actor Ethan Phillips was fairly short, and the character was that way on the show as well. Of course, the funny thing is that this is actually the one example of this was something that he wore in the first episode and a handful of times throughout the first season, and the second a little bit, but I'm not sure that we ever saw it much in later seasons. I was recently telling someone that one of my main complaints about this figure is that it really makes Nelix look like he has a mohawk. And he never really had a mohawk in the show. It was, especially the hair in the front was very wispy and thin. And it just kind of ran towards the back. It wasn't quite so poofy and mohawk-like. But they did do an excellent job of the little sideburns and the eyebrows. And the paint application all over his head's actually really good as well. And I do like the pink blue and robin's egg blue that's on the outfit itself. Later on, they did do Lieutenant Carrie, who we saw him a couple of times in the first season, and then didn't see him again until the 7th season when he died. Oh, sorry, spoilers. Never quite understood why they decided just to bring him back for one episode in the 7th season just to kill him. I could have done him a little better than that. But anyways, I'm always one for crew building, so the fact that we did get him and a couple of others was excellent. Well, technically only one other, although I'm going to show you two more. So yeah, we got Lieutenant Carrie. We then got Cesca, the way she looked in the first season as a Bajoran, really only the first half of the first... No, it was all of the first season. It wasn't until the season finale that we found out that she was a Cardassian, if I recall correctly. Again, spoilers if you haven't watched the show, then why are you watching this? Because that would probably be incredibly confusing. But anyways, so yeah, this is what she looked like. I do like the little hairstyle that she's got. They did a really good job on the sculpt for her hair. The nose seems a little soft. It doesn't seem quite as well detailed as, say, the Major Kira did for the Deep Space Nine figures. But I mean, they have the lines there if you look closely. But it doesn't. Yeah, if you get out the Major Kira figure and look at it, you'll see what I'm talking about. Then they did start in, I think it was in 98. They started doing 97 actually is when they started doing these 709s figures. This was how she appeared when she first came onto the show in the silver outfit, which this was technically the easiest of the figures to get, although none of them were very easy. I don't even have the 709 as a Borg figure, but they did packaged her with the silver outfit and the blue outfit, and then they did a exclusive mail-away version of her in the sort of purpley maroon colored outfit, which I do have, but that's in my locked up box, which I will be doing later on. All of my special exclusive expensive figures will get shown in their own video, and because she's still in the box and everything. But anyways, so yeah, this was, like I mentioned in the Deep Space Nine video, they started taking articulation away from these figures, and it just made them more and more annoying. I mean, this is basically a statue. She can raise her hand and ask a question. Yeah. And then the last figure I've got of ones that were made, it was an no, I have two more. First is the 1701 Lieutenant Barclay in the Voyager uniform. Now, the thing that's actually kind of surprises me about this, I really feel like that was a new head sculpt for Dwight Schultz, the actor. Because while it is still obviously him, the actor who played Lieutenant Barclay, the hair is actually very different than the one that was made for the Next Generation figure. In fact, the head even looks a little wider, in my opinion. Maybe, maybe not. I've always wondered that. I feel like this figure, the head sculpt looks a little different. It still looks great. Obviously, the body is that reused body that they use for all the male figures and, on these, which includes the last one, which I've been trying to get to, which was a Spencer's exclusive for some reason. Because, when I think Star Trek figures, I think Spencer's. When I was a teenager when these came out, the closest Spencer's, and technically it's still the closest Spencer's to where I live. Well, no, I think they did build one nearby. But when I was younger, when I was growing up and I was a teenager when these were coming out, it was 35 miles to the nearest Spencer's. But I have managed to get a hold of Nelix in the security officer uniform. Now, the thing, of course, about this that is hilarious to me, as I'll show you here in just a second, is that it was literally, they just took a Nelix head, stuck it on that same generic male body. But the problem is, it made him like a foot taller. All of a sudden, Nelix grew. And of course, the fact that this was a character that only appeared in, I believe, it was Year of Hell, the two-parter between season 3 and 4. I think it was. Somebody will probably correct me. Where everything goes to hell on the ship, and Nelix starts serving as a security officer. The two customs I've got for this video, first is, and I know that I could have used the Deep Space Nine version for this, but I had to make a Voyager version of Q. It's the John Lancie head. This is a Chakotay torso, and the upper arms are actually off of a Chakotay, but the lower arm, no, the arms are also off Chakotay. I cut the hands off of a Q figure and put them on there so that I could have Q. No, Picard. I gotta get this straight. That's Picard hands. So I could have him doing the make it so. Then the legs are off of the Q figure as well. And then the very last custom is the famous debate about Voyager and about whether or not Captain Janeway is a murderer. Did Captain Janeway kill Tuvix? This is... The body is actually all the exact same as the Nelix figure, just repainted, but the head is all completely custom sculpted to have the hair like Tuvix, as well as the slightly different pointed hair ears. The forehead was much softer, but still had the little bit of the ridges. I'll get in as close as I can on that. With a very interesting color palette. If you look closely, you can see I actually used some gold and copper tones in there to help emphasize that one. But yeah, that is it for the Voyager figures, the main line of Voyager figures that I've got. I do have some extra characters that I've made that I'll show you at another time. So until next time, thank you and enjoy.